I tried to get to it before the the
Uh,
pledge, but
Clerk Cody, would you do a roll call, please?
Clerk Cody here, Union Township, Isabella County, Michigan. Treasurer Rice.
here, Union Township, Isabella County, Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Supervisor Milky.
Here, Union Township, Isabella County, Michigan.
Trustee Brown.
Here, Union Township, Isabella County, State of Michigan.
Trustee Hauk.
Here, Union Township, Isabella County, Michigan.
Trustee Bills.
Here, Isabella County, Union Township, Michigan.
Trustee Thering.
Here, Union Township, Isabella County, Michigan.
All are present.
Thank you. We have an agenda with 7, I think, new business items. Be happy to entertain a motion regarding the agenda.
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Report.
Motion by Cody, support by Rice. Discussion? Seeing none. Clerk Cody, would you list the honors, please, on the motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Trustee Bills.
Yes.
Trustee Thering.
Yes.
Trustee Hauk.
Yes.
Trustee Brown.
Yes.
Supervisor Milky.
Yes.
Treasurer Rice.
Yes.
And Clerk Cody, yes. All yes.
Thank you. We have no presentations tonight or public hearings, so that moves us to public comment, number 7 on the agenda. Public comment is restricted to 3 minutes regarding items on this agenda. This is not an opportunity for questions, but rather just for comments. Questions to the board will not be answered at this time. For specific answers, please call Township Hall 989-772-4600. If you're new to Zoom, if you move your mouse at the bottom of the screen, there's a participants button. If you click on that, the participants panel will be displayed, and you can click on the raise hand button in that panel to get the notice to request time for public comment. If you're calling in, I don't see any call-ins, so I'll skip that part. With that, state your name and address for the record, please. With that, we'll open public comment at 7:03 p.m. I was sure Rodney was going to get involved today, but not seeing anybody. We'll close public comment at 7:03 p.m. And with that, we'll move to item 8 on the agenda. Current list of boards and commissions. Just a note, I know we have 2 spots open because Matt Mertz recently left us, and hopefully he's a better place. And but I did get someone to reach back to me today that has some interest in the sidewalks, so I'm excited about that. We'll see if that person applies. And we still need one on the EDA. And if you've read your packet, which I'm sure you have, you'll note that there's proposed new bylaws, which actually gives us a little bit more flexibility on potentially filling that board. And I'm just looking, anybody have other notes for vacant seats? Zoning Board of Appeal, we have a vacant seat. So keep working on those.
I'm striking out. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm striking out on the EDA. I've tried a couple of people. I know you and I talked, Brian. The one guy that has the property like Isabella and Baseline or Pickard, he's not interested.
Yeah. We've been trying, not for lack of effort, but all right, with that, we'll move on, let's see, to Planning Commission and ZBA updates by our Community and Economic Development Director, Mr. Nanny. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It has been a busy month for both. The Zoning Board of Appeals held their first hearing on an application, reviewed their first application in over a year, actually. We had a couple of training meetings, but they have this is our first variance in over a year. It was a sign variance application for a business on Pickard Road, and that variance was approved The sign is up. This is the SOS it's a medical facility in front of the Holiday Inn. And so you can see the results of that variance up in front of the property now. The Planning Commission, their regular meeting in March had a number of items on it. One of those was the scheduled public hearing for the new county jail. Prior to the meeting, but unfortunately not prior to our publication and mailing of the notices, the county notified us that they've requested specifically that no action be taken on the application. We explained that we'd have to open and close the hearing at the very least because we'd already notified the neighbors. So we did do that. The Planning Commission opened the hearing. We heard from one neighbor, and then they closed the hearing and postponed any further action. At this point, we're waiting to hear further information from the county as to what they'd like to do next. But at this point, they have, as I understand it, they've rescinded their purchase agreement for the property on South Somerton Road in Remus. So we'll be, as I said, just waiting for further information from them. They also held a hearing on a rezoning on Pickard Road at 5048 East Pickard. This is a site that has a house on it. It has some, it's kind of an L-shaped property, has some land fronting on Florence Street to the side street. They did recommend approval of that rezoning, which was to rezone the entire property to B7. It was currently split zoned. So that matter will be coming before you some point next month. It's right now in the hands of the County Planning Commission. And then they also approved the final site plan for the Consumers Energy City Gate rebuild project, also at East Pickard near Somerton. So that matter at this point is ready for a building permit. It's a project that involves pretty much a complete rebuild of everything you can see on the Consumers Energy site next to the Baymont Inn, including upgrading the building and a new shelter building there that will look much nicer, and also ornamental fencing to replace the chain link and some other upgrades to landscaping and such around the site. It's going to be a nice improvement. As part of that, the Consumers Energy agreed to install a sidewalk on the Somerton Road frontage of their property. In addition to that, the Plan Commission, we talked with Plan Commission about the Parks and Rec Master Plan update, talking about possible options for public participation, and they briefly discussed the implementation of the master plan. The Plan Commission does have a special meeting scheduled next Tuesday, the 30th. That was at a request of two different requests we have for a special meeting. This is to cover another rezoning action, this time on Northway Drive, property that's right behind the Home Depot. That's part of the industrial park area, the Enterprise Park Industrial Park. And then also a second phase of a mini storage facility owned by McGurk Sand and Gravel. So they're holding that hearing, that special meeting on the 30th next week. So that's all I have for those items. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
The sign variance that you mentioned, was that because of just special conditions, or is it something with the sign ordinance maybe that gets put on a punch list?
I appreciate that. Thank you. It actually is a result of a previous variance. The site, when it was developed, the developer requested a variance to allow the parking lot to be closer to the Pickard Road frontage than the ordinance otherwise allowed. That variance was granted. It had the unfortunate result that the parking lot is located, encroaches essentially into the area where the sign is required to be. That issue was not considered when the variance was approved. So essentially, the variance was to allow the sign to be moved a little closer to the road right of way to keep it from having to be in a parking space. The sign is still, if you look at the site, you will not even realize that there's a variance there. It actually was very well done, and the site is very well set up for what worked out. And as I said, the sign's up, so you can take a look and see. But it's essentially in their landscaping area.
Sounds like special circumstances.
It definitely was. I think it's unique for me. I've never had one where a previous variance generated a new variance.
Yeah. Any other questions for our director? Seeing none, thank you. I did skip by accident the monthly report, just in case anybody has any questions to our manager for that. Yes, trustee Therian.
I do. I have actually a couple of questions. One, there was 3 FOIA requests. Is that, do you know what that's, not that I need great detail, but is there anything you can share with us on the FOIA requests?
I don't have anything on the specifics of them. I couldn't recall sitting here what they were, but we receive several FOIA requests a month just as a matter of routine.
Okay. Okay, very good. The other question I had, thanks, Mark. The other question I had is kind of a generic question. I think it's about the ordinance enforcement activities. When it's necessary for the township to seek legal counsel to make right, we recoup that cost somehow. So if we find that somebody just won't comply after we've tried and tried and tried, and then we have to seek legal counsel and we find that we are still in the right, we recoup any of that cost?
We can attempt to. We have not gone all the way to court yet since I've been here, I don't think, on an enforcement measure, but there is allowance in the court rules where we could seek reimbursement, if you will, of legal expenses.
Okay, that's, yeah,
Whether or
just-
not we do or not kind of depends on, the cases and all that kind of.
right.
Yeah.
It's not anything that I'm recommending. I was just kind of curious, thinking, seeing a few and reading a few of the same things that I know that everybody's working very diligently on. And then when you have to get legal involved, especially if it got, unfortunately, to a point of you do go to court, and if we are found in the right, it could get expensive. So thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. That's all for me.
Any other questions? Yes, trustee Hauk.
Yes, I just had one. Mark, speaking to what James was just saying about code violations and stuff, were you able to show those pictures to Rodney that James and I took out there? I sent you some pictures.
Yeah, I shared those with Kim Smith,
Okay,
and we were first going to be looking at what to do with that ATV.
yeah,
And
yeah, and there's all the trash out there.
right,
So-
and we don't have a camera there. We don't know who's dumping there. We talked briefly about putting up some no trespassing signs, but
I guess if the trail leads to a house, I guess that's the first place I'd look. But
yeah, but we're
you
not.
know what I'm talking about, James.
Yeah, right.
So along those lines, I'm assuming the other advantage, no trespassing signs, is it would help with liability. Is that true?
That'd be my concern more than anything.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's,
especially, I mean, if they're riding ATVs on there and someone gets hurt, hate to have the township liable.
yeah, you brought that up when we walked out there, James.
Any other questions for our manager regarding the monthly report? Not seeing any. We'll go to board member reports, and I'll start in the bottom right this time because I'm seeing Connie Bills looking, smiling. Connie, you have the floor.
I have nothing to give you guys today. I found out that the powwow is going to happen this year, though.
Do you know a date of that yet?
It's the first week of July. I can't remember exactly. The guy told me the date tonight. Didn't write it down.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Clerk Cody? Trustee Brown,
I do not have a report this week.
Trustee Thering.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Are we trying to make it a quick meeting? Treasurer Rice.
We did not have our sidewalks and pathways meeting. There was not a quorum. Because we're down to 3 members. So if one is gone, there's no quorum. So we really need to get some help on this board so that, you know, we can make sure to have a quorum. I've been looking. I know you got a phone call from someone today, Brian, so I'm looking forward to it. So that's all I have. Oh, it did get rescheduled to April 7th, if I remember correctly, right, Rodney? 6:30. So,
Good.
yep.
Trustee Hauk.
There's a road commission meeting tomorrow, but there's a couple of things. They haven't decided which 4 miles of gravel roads we're gonna do yet this year. They haven't made those determinations yet. And then 3 more easements were signed for the corner of Lincoln and Broomfield. There's a couple more yet to go. So.
That's good
they
progress.
said to thank Jeff Brown too. So Jeff helped out with those. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you bet. We'll get the rest of it. But yeah, when I talked to Pat, he's looking at starting construction in August on that project. So
They gotta get the easements and then get it out for bid.
it's good stuff. Can't
Good
wait to have
news.
some.
So EDA met, forgive me, last week, right? I think it was last week. Everything's a blur. It was in the last couple of weeks anyways. But we did have a consultant in. As you know, we're looking at renewing the charter for both districts. And we invited some business people in from those districts. And I was happy that some of them attended and gave great discussion. And not just great discussion from the residents that were businesses that are there, but from our board. I was really happy with the dialogue. It was essentially brainstorming, a SWOT session, right? We talk strengths, weaknesses, threats of those districts so that we can better understand what the future of those might look like. Excuse me. We did have some information which I felt this board would be interested in. And this is just projects that are planned in 2021. Doesn't mean they're all approved at this point. But one of our members had asked for like a full complete listing, and I thought it was useful information. So I'm going to just kind of enumerate those. So for the West Downtown Development Authority Fund, we have Lincoln Road south of the bridge, right? We all know that one. Pedestrian improvements at Lincoln and Remus intersection. Sidewalk on the west side of Lincoln, north of Remus. Sidewalk construction north and south sides of Remus Road between Bradley and Lincoln. So both those are awesome places and high priority too, based on our sidewalk committee's recommendations. And then for the East DDA, sewer pump station 1. That's the one we just approved, I believe, right? Rodney?
It's a long-standing project. It has
Yes.
been bid out in the past and had to be carried over because of some of the bids were not coming in satisfactorily.
Sewer improvements along Somerton Road, Jameson Park, which you should all be aware of. And then contribution to the master plan for parks, which our director mentioned earlier. And I thought I'd just kind of list those out. In particular, I know there's been interest in some of the sidewalks. So I wanted to list the ones that the EDA was considering to participate in. So with that, I'm done. We'll move on to consent agenda. I'd be happy to entertain.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll support.
Motion by Rice, support by Brown. Discussion? Jeff, you had warrants, I believe?
I did.
Everything good?
Everything's clear. Yes, sir.
Not seeing any hands. With that, Clerk Cody, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Would you give us a roll call, please?
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
trustee Bills,
Yes.
treasurer Rice,
Yes.
clerk Cody, yes, trustee Thering,
Yes.
supervisor Melky,
Yes.
and trustee Hope.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll move to agenda item 10A, new business. This is discussion, potential approval of engineering construction services contract. And I'll hand that off to our manager.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. The paperwork for this begins on page 36 of your agenda packet. We're asking for the board to consider approval of an engineering and construction services contract with Gordy Frazier in the amount of $43,500 for the installation of a high service pumps at the River Road Control Valve Station. Back in 2017, there was a water reliability report and capital improvement plan produced that identified that the existing capacity of the water supply system, which includes source of the water, the wells, treatment, and then pumping infrastructure, was identified to be not adequate over the next 5 to 20 years to meet the projected demands of the system. And to resolve that, the report recommended the installation of a high service booster pump to be installed at this control valve station. And it would allow for water to move more efficiently and effectively both east and west across the township. The entire project is estimated at $280,000. It was included in your approved 2021 adopted budget. The recommended contract with Gordy Frazier as part of that project estimate that was included in the budget. And the services by Gordy Frazier will involve preparation of preliminary design plans, also final design plans. They'd be providing construction services work to document creation, construction, administration, and observation, and then project closeout activities. So we're recommending approval of the agreement that's in your packet. We have both Ms. Kim Smith, Public Service Director, here tonight, and Ms. Jennifer Hodges, the engineer with Gordy Frazier, if you have questions that I can't answer. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the engineering and construction services contract with Gordy Frazier in the amount of $43,500 for the installation of high-speed service pumps at the River Road Control Valve Station.
Support.
I heard motion by Hauk and support by Clerk Cody.
Yep.
Discussion.
That's that little building right there, kind of across from the wastewater treatment plant. Is that where that's at?
Yep, it's that little brick building that's across from the plant.
Yeah, that was built about 5 years ago, something like that.
2013, we built that, yes.
Okay. A little longer than 5 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's a nice little building.
It is.
Hey, Kim, do we know the duration of this booster pump? I mean, how long are we looking at this booster pump I mean, in some kind of figure that may last the township.
Yeah, so 20 years is the projection on that. You know, that's dependent on the growth of the township, water demands, but 20 years would be the estimated time.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions, comments?
I just got a comment. Just when you retype this out, make sure it's 43,500 without one of them zeros in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I think I did that on the last one too. I must
Yeah.
be real happy or something.
Well, it's on page 37, it's correct. I didn't say anything because
I'm testing you, James, to see if you noticed it.
I noticed it. I don't read the letters very well, but the numbers sure stick out.
Yeah. I noticed it when I read it, but I didn't want to say anything.
All right, anything else? All right, motion is in front of us, the approval of construction services contract with Gordy Fraser for 43,500, not 435,000. For the high service pumps at River Road Control Valve Station. Clerk Cody, would you get us a roll call, please?
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Treasurer Rice,
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Trustee Hauck,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
and Trustee Thering,
Yes.
all yes.
Thank you very much, Clerk Cody. That brings us to item B on new business. Again, Gordy Fraser Engineering Services Contract regarding Pump Station 7. Manager Stuhldreher, would you like to introduce this?
Thank you. And the paperwork for this starts on page 48 of your agenda packet. We're asking you to consider approving a contract with Gordy Fraser in the amount of $61,300 for assistance in upgrading and rehabilitating Pump Station 7 and collection system upgrades around and on McDonald Drive. In response to the impact of the 2017 flood that occurred, and in particular around the McDonald neighborhood, the township approved a study to be done that was done by Gordy Fraser of the existing sanitary sewer collection and distribution infrastructure. The report was prepared and presented to the board in the fall of 2018. The report concluded that the infrastructure was in very good condition, that it had been well maintained, and it was all operating within the original design limitations or specifications. While there were no deficiencies noted, there were recommendations in the report to upgrade Pump Station 7 and perform upgrades to the collection system to minimize the impacts of future flooding to the homes in that service area. This project was also approved in your adopted 2021 budget in the budgeted amount of $496,000. That's inclusive of the engineering component. It'll be similar work involved with this project, as I mentioned earlier, preliminary design work, final design work, construction support, observation, monitoring, generation of bid documents, support for analyzing those bids so that at the appropriate time we can make a thoughtful recommendation to the board. And with that, I can turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the engineering and construction services contract with Gordy Frazier in the amount of $61,300 for the upgrade rehabilitation of pump station number 7 and the collection system upgrades on McDonald Drive.
I'll support that.
Motion by Hauk, support by Brown. Discussion. Trustee Hauk.
Yes, I just have one thing to say. On page 59, item 8, it talks about the grading to reduce flooding in that area. I think that's very important. I mean, if you go out to the end and you look at that, it sets pretty low. I think it's good that we're going to be doing something like that. Build that up.
You know, I wasn't around when, well, I was around when the flood happened, but I wasn't on the board. And I realize my information may be spotty, but I do remember some of the issues that were there and that the board had decided to do a study. And what were county drains looked at it all? I mean, there's more to water flow than just the sewer system, right, that we have. I'm assuming if we upgrade the sewer system that we're trying to mitigate this from happening again, but are we in a situation where there might be county drain issues that are causing worse problems?
There were.
Yeah.
And then I know Mark and Kim, I know Mark, you tried to get in touch with the drain commissioner, right? To see if they would go out. There were trees. If you went down O'Connor Drive, I know I went to a few houses around there. There's big trees in the drain. Well, it slows the flow of the drain, but they never really did anything with it, did they? I mean, I know Willoughby, the drain commissioner, never even went out there, did he, Mark? I don't recall.
I believe he did go out there. There were some issues identified with the drain, and the township and some of the neighbors, in fact,
Yeah.
in communication with the drain commissioner, they in fact started the process to remediate some of what the problems were with the drain. I think cleaning it out and doing some other things. But to tell you the truth, I'm not sure whatever came of that. It got to one of the boards at the county level that deemed it, and I forget the term they used, but deemed it such that it would be work that needed to be done. They were going to, I think, charge some of the property owners within the drainage district to pay for some of that. But I don't know where it went after that, to tell you the truth.
We may have went to some of the road commission. I can't remember because they talked that they were going to maybe have to increase the size of the culverts under Bamber Road. I don't know if anybody recalls that, but there was talk of increasing the size of the culverts under Bamber Road and then also under Crawford Road, where that drain goes through.
I'll get an update and send out something to the board on the Mission Creek drain work that the county drain commissioner started to go down a road on.
Okay, and I don't want my question to be misread. I'm supportive of this motion. I just wanted to make sure that we don't upgrade our system to be left with the drain system that doesn't allow our system to fully function anyways, right? That we end up in the same problem.
Right.
Again.
Yeah, we're trying to do work that will help with that, but it won't solve everything, especially in an incident like that, because there is the Mission Creek drain there, and then there's the drain that runs on the back side of McDonald Drive as well. So they get kind of doubly hit there. It's all part of the same drain system, but it comes on both sides. And our station sits right at the end. So with some of the berming that we'll do and with some of the manhole work, that will help alleviate some water, but we won't be able to stop it all if those drains overflow like they did
Right.
the last time.
Yeah, and that was my worry. That's why I brought that
Yeah.
up. So
But we'd like to do we're going to try to do our part to do as much as we can.
And I believe, although not directly related to this project, but your subject matter generally, and Kim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have funds in the 2021 budget to do some dye testing out there.
That's actually in another area. That's over in the concourse area, which is pump station number 5. We have heavy flows in that area as well. And we believe a lot of that is contributed from infiltration from downspouts and sump pumps and that type of thing. So that is for that area that we have that budgeted. Yes.
My apologies.
No, it's sometimes hard to keep them all straight. We got a lot. We've got quite a few of them.
Any other?
When's the projected date for the McDonald Drive construction?
We'll go through the design phase and then we'll have to be permitted through the state. We'd like to still go under construction this year. Whether that gets finished or not will be dependent on how long it takes us to get some of the equipment that we'll need.
Okay.
Because we are finding some longer lead times. We will not have to buy pumps for this project. I don't know if you recall, we had a few months ago, we bought the pumps, but they'll have to be taken out and put back in. And usually the pumps are the longest lead time that we have to wait for, but there is other equipment that we will have a lead time on. So we're hoping, I would like to have this done this year. You know, started in late summer, early fall type thing, and then go through. Once we start, the actual construction will not take that long because you can only be the station can only be shut down for so long.
So hopefully 2022 spring, we're all set.
We're all set. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep. That's what we're aiming for.
That'd
Yes.
be wonderful. Thank you.
Motion on the floor. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion is to approve the engineering contract with Gordy Fraser for the amount of $61,300 for the upgrade rehabilitation of pump 7. And with that, Clerk Cody, would you do us a roll call on that?
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
Treasurer Rice,
Yes.
Trustee Bills,
Yes,
Clerk Cody, yes, and Trustee Brown,
Yes.
all yeses.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer, for your coming.
I'm
to the
sorry?
meeting tonight. I was just thanking Jennifer for coming to the meeting tonight.
Well, I just want to thank the board for allowing me the ability to continue to assist you guys with projects. It's a privilege, and I continue looking forward to working with you guys, and hopefully we get to meet in person soon. That
Jennifer.
would be more. Thank you guys for your time. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Jennifer.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
All right, that brings us to item 10C on our agenda, discussion or adoption of the McGurk Subdivision Paving Special Assessment District, Resolution number 4. Manager Stuhldreher, would you like to introduce this?
Thank you, and you'll find paperwork for this item on page 60 of your agenda packet. We're asking for consideration to adopt McGurk Subdivision Paving Special Assessment District Resolution number 4. This resolution sets the second public hearing, the date and time for the establishment of this district. There's a bit of history in your agenda packet, all the various actions that the board has taken in the past. I won't review those here tonight. The purpose of the resolution that's in front of you for consideration tonight is to confirm that the completed special assessment roll be given to the township clerk and made available to the public for inspection prior to the second public hearing. The resolution also would set the date and time for the public hearing to be May 12th, 2021 at 7 p.m. If approved, the staff will mail the notices for the second public hearing to all the appropriate property owners and parties of interest. We'll publish it in the newspaper as required by statute. I believe that's 2 times. And then, assuming all this proceeds, the final action is targeted for May 12th, where you'd be finally confirming the roll. And you'd be at that meeting determining the number of installments and the interest rate. And if all that continues per the calendar, then we could expect the work over there to be done in the 2021 construction season. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of McGirt subdivision paving and special assessment district resolution number 4, which sets the second public hearing date and time for the establishment of a paving special assessment district.
Support.
Motion by Bills, support by Brown. Discussion?
I have a question, but it isn't directly about this, so maybe I should just wait till the end, because obviously I definitely support this. But it's more or less the process. I understand we have a process, but it just seems like it's, and we have to do it the right way, and I trust that we are. It just seems like it's just several steps, and this isn't maybe necessarily the time to ask the question, but is there a better way? More speedier way? I mean, you can't run through these things, but.
I'm happy to chair with your indulgence.
Sure.
Comment, but it is an involved process. I think there's 5 resolutions, 2 public hearings. There's petitions that get circulated to gauge interest. There's formal petitions that get circulated. All this is being done by the rules outlined in the statute. Some things within the whole process, we don't have all the control over the timing, how long it may take a interested party to secure signatures and those kinds of things. But it is, I think, intended to be a fairly involved. I mean, there are very few things that go before a board 5 times. In public hearings. But it's because you're levying a special assessment, and that's no small thing in theory or practice. So I hope that in part answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I would always be wondering. I mean, I'm sure if there was and again, not to rush it, but I'm sure as we do these things, if we discover better ways to do it, I have complete confidence that you guys you and Rodney and Kim and your staff will implement that. So just Mark, thanks for the explanation. It's just something I've been thinking about, so I appreciate that.
One of the benefits of living in a subdivision.
Well, you gotta do it right. I mean, that's first and foremost. So,
and I think just for clarity too, when you mentioned statute, Manager Stuhldreher, you meant those are state statutes that we have to follow.
Yes.
I do have one comment. I was really pleased by the tentative cost that we're seeing for the total assessment. And it's down quite a bit. It's down, I don't know, 25%. I didn't do the math, but it's down considerably from where the estimates were early on.
$1,000.
And that's not a direct, all of that is not a direct change that we made regarding what gets passed on to, in this case, the residents. But I'm assuming some of that's just the road commission finally getting there and getting that spec'd and figured out. But I got to think those residents, when they saw it was 90 or close to 100,000, somewhere in that neighborhood that they signed a petition on, and this is considerably less than that.
Yeah, this item goes back, to Trustee Thering's point, 2 years maybe. So the original cost estimates, the road commission was building in space within their estimates because they didn't yet know the exact costs of asphalt for the particular year. At the time, we were also building in more administrative expenses than ended up
That's it.
being, I'll say, allowed per policy. And we went through that iteration at least once, I think maybe twice, because we wanted to be high rather than low. And we didn't know the costs. They were all estimates at the time, but these are pretty set now.
Any other questions or comments? Clerk Cody, we have a motion on the floor to approve the I want to get the words right. Oh, no, I don't have it in front of me. This special assessment district for McGurk subdivision as presented. Would you do a roll call, please?
Treasurer Rice,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Bills,
Yes.
and Trustee Thering,
Yes.
all yes.
Thank you very much. That moves us to item D in new business. Discussion, approve agreement for annexation and detachment of property with the city of Mount Pleasant. To resolve uncertainty as the precise location of the jurisdictional boundary lines between the city and the township. This was a fun packet piece for me to read. With that, I'll ask our manager to introduce it.
Thank you. And you have paperwork beginning on page 69 of your packet. This is in the area of the former CSX railroad grade and the city's public works department facilities. Also includes a small area of land that's part of the Mount Pleasant Country Club. In preparation for the 2020 census, the Census Bureau goes through an exercise where they're confirming boundaries, and they have a validation program. They're looking at maps and various things. And when that came in front of us, it was identified that indeed a number of irregularities existed regarding the boundary lines in that area that I just described. And in addition to that, as the respective staff started looking into this a little closer, they noted that, you know, we have several GIS databases and parcel databases. The city has one, the township has one, the county has one, and they were each kind of reflecting different information in terms of, you know, was a particular parcel in the township or the city or vice versa. This area also involves the cemetery that's located up there. So the city planner, Jacob Kane and Rodney Nanny from our staff began looking into this issue, trying to figure out a way to resolve it. They've been working it since July of 2020. The results are the agreement that's before you tonight for consideration. I will note that the city considered this agreement at their meeting this past Monday night and approved it unanimously. I consider the item, although important, to be ministerial in nature. The land involved, the taxes involved are de minimis. And so I can turn it back over to Supervisor Melky, and then we have Mr. Nanny here tonight, and I do see Mr. Kane in the audience if you have any questions of the city. We ask that you consider approving this agreement.
Have any questions? Oh, we're being quiet. I'll just comment that, at least from the outside looking in, I didn't realize it goes back to July 2020, but it seemed like this was a fairly low drama situation, where in some situations, other municipalities, it may not be. And I'm seeing nods, so that kind of confirms that a little bit. But I think that's largely because of the relationship that's been built between the city and the township over this past, I don't know, 8 years or so. It brings us benefits for both our communities all the time. And this is an example of coming to a solution on a potentially difficult situation. And so I'm glad to see it before us. Get us behind us, right? Any questions or comments? Motion?
I have a comment. This is my second meeting on this today. I'm on Sacred Heart Cemetery Board, and we talked about this earlier today. There weren't a lot of people out there complaining.
Trustee Bills, you.
I'll make a motion to approve an agreement for annexation and detachment of property with the city of Mount Pleasant to resolve uncertainty as to the precise location of the jurisdictional boundary line between the city and the township in the area of the former CSX Railroad grade in the city's Public Works Department facilities north of West Pickard Road at North Washington Street, the Cavalry Cemetery west of North Fancher Street, and a small area of land near the southeast corner of the Mount Pleasant Country Club.
Support.
I'll support it.
Got a motion by Bills. I heard support by Cody. Any other comments, discussion?
That's
Questions?
all my oxygen.
You don't have.
I don't
COVID.
believe that for 1 second, Connie.
I am certified in foot to mouth resuscitation if you should need some.
Well, I don't know how much jockeying of the line there was, but it ended up being a net change of what, $109, I think, in taxable revenue, which is pretty minimal. So that may be one of the reasons there isn't big complaints from anybody on this.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't think you got what I said. It's
Oh,
the
I'm sorry, Bill.
cemetery.
No.
It was the cemetery. There weren't a lot of people complaining out there.
Okay, I didn't get that the first time, Bill. I'm sorry.
Jacob
I heard
Kane
you,
got
Bill.
it at the earlier meeting.
It's too soon, too soon. While not seeing any further need for discussion, unless there's protest, Clerk Cody, we have a motion to approve the agreement for annexation and detachment of property with the city. Would you be willing to do roll call on that, please?
Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. Trustee Thering,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Treasurer Rice.
Yes.
All yes.
Jacob and Rodney, thank you for
Yes.
all your time spent on this.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Thank
Jacob.
you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, I got another one. I found a couple Pro V1s out there by the cemetery today where it goes up against the country club.
Thanks for your help on this, Jacob.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
All right, that brings us to item 10E on our agenda. This is regarding bylaws for the EDA. I'll briefly introduce this just because I sit on the EDA. Our last two meetings actually, we did a editing of bylaws and then approved it at the last meeting. But I think our Community and Economic Development Director noted that we don't have bylaws for the EDA. And we may have at one time, but for those that don't know, the basement of the township got flooded some years ago and we lost some documents. So I'm assuming that's where they were, but we don't know. In any event, Rodney took the initiative to get some bylaws presented and proposed to the board. As I said, we made some minor changes to it. And it does loosen up slightly my understanding of appointments. In fact, I think in the West EDA, we may be required to, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Nanny, but I think we may be required to get one resident from that district to be representing the West. But in any event, it does allow a little more latitude for us to be able to fill those boards. And I'll hand it to our manager just in case there's anything else you'd like to add. to
There's
that?
not, thank you.
All right, so we have bylaws in front of us. Motion, question, comments?
I have a question. Do the EDA members don't get compensated?
That is actually a requirement of the state act for downtown development authorities. It explicitly says that they cannot be compensated.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick. Rodney?
Well, I'll make a motion. We have to do an action item on this, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to concur with the Economic Development Board Authority and approve the updated EDA board bylaws and rules of procedure.
Or
Motion by Howe, support by Rice. I guess I have one question. And I don't know who's best to answer this, so I'll let staff. I think it's directed towards staff though. So once if the board approves this, then it's a done deal, right? I mean, the EDA already did it. They become the official bylaws at that point, correct?
That is correct.
Any other questions, comments? We have a motion on the floor to approve the bylaws presented by the EDA.
Should this be done in resolution form though? Because it's the bylaws, but I'm not sure about that.
It just needs to be a simple motion to acknowledge you've approved them.
Okay.
Okay, with that, Clerk Cody, unless there's objection, would you do roll call on the approval concurring with the Economic Development Authority Board bylaws that are in front of us?
Clerk Cody, yes. Treasurer Rice,
yes.
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Hauk,
Yes.
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
and Trustee Bills.
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item F, unless I didn't skip one, right? I tend to skip them sometime if I don't pay attention. 10F, this is regarding electronic device policy that we had before us before. We went through some debate when our manager was on vacation, identified some changes. Those changes are not word for word what we indicated, but I think they include the spirit of what we discussed. And with that, I'll hand that to our manager if you'd like to say anything about it.
Just briefly, I was not at the meeting. I did watch it on video upon my return. And I noted where the board had some changes that they wanted to make to the policy. I've attempted to capture those. If I haven't, I apologize. On page 89 of your agenda packet is the original policy with strike throughs and underlines for the edits to the original policy based on the feedback that I thought was being presented at the last meeting. So hopefully this meets with what you were trying to address at your prior meeting. If approved, the administration will begin the process of securing and deploying electronic devices to the board.
I'll make a motion to approve the Charter Township of Union electronic device computer tablet use policy for elected official.
I would support that.
We have a motion by Cody, support by Thering. Discussion, yes, Trustee Bills.
Well, in accordance with my previous comments on this subject, now there's no amount listed. So is this going to be no ceiling now, or how's that going to work?
Well, the way it's going to work is it is a matter of policy, and this is a policy-making board. You all need to decide whether or not you want, as a matter of policy, for elected officials, current and future, to receive electronic devices. And if the board does, then you should have a policy that's associated with that. And by considering this policy and if the board approves it, then the board will say, yes, we want current and future board members to have electronic devices. And if you do that, then the, I'll call it the minutia of executing your policy will be our charge to the administration. And we'll go out and get devices and deploy them to the board members per this policy. I know there was a lot of discussion last meeting about the price and some sticker shock. And I think I might have contributed to that by confusing or by combining the purchase with the policy. And I apologize for anything that I contributed to that.
Trustee Bills, you have the floor.
Do we need to make a motion then after the policy is approved to make a budget amendment?
No, if we need a budget amendment, it will be brought to you. But you don't need to do one right now.
And just as a note, I think too, if it's over $10,000, then that purchase can't be made. It's got to come back to us for that approval anyways, per policy. I'm not suggesting that it is or it isn't, because I don't know what the staff is going to bring to us, but know that that's the case, that if it's over, they got to come back to us for approval.
Right.
And then are you just going to go out and buy tablets for everybody, whether they need them or not?
Probably not. The policy, the policy says that the township will provide devices to the elected officials. I don't think that means that you have to physically receive it if you don't want to, but we have an obligation to provide it to you. You can go, no, thanks, I'm not taking it.
Okay, so
I would probably check with you beforehand, because I don't think I'd buy one if I didn't need it immediately.
that's good, because I mean, I don't want good, new electronic stuff sitting around for a couple of years waiting to be used. That's the only problem I would have with it.
I would agree with your comments regarding that not every board member may have the need. They may have a good device that they want to use that they're already using, and no need for the township to expend those funds if one of the trustees doesn't need or want their own device provided by the township.
Right.
Cool.
The policy kind of requires that it be provided. It does not require that you accept it.
Trustee Therian.
Actually, I had just a real brief conversation with Mark, which I very much appreciated and threw a different light on it for me. So thank you, Mark. But the gist of the conversation, if I get it wrong, Mark, stop me. Yeah, the 10,000 sticker shock was my big thing. But if you look at it, if you were to buy something that's a good device, in which case Brian had mentioned something about you need something that's good and that something could potentially be reused. It's, let's just say it's $1,000. So now you're spending $7,000, and that might just get you the bare minimum. By spending an extra $3,000, now you have a piece of equipment that you could potentially use later down the road. Not to suggest that that's what we need to do, but that definitely gave me a different perspective to reuse. I'd rather have something that could potentially be reused or repurposed than to buy something that in 3 or 4 years is basically garbage. Did I get that right, Mark?
Yes, you did.
Okay. The other question I'm just generically to everybody is, let's just say something arose where all of our devices that we currently have right now, they want to get information off of. I don't know what that would be. Some FOIA came out and they wanted to know what our communication was. Could they then come in and take our personal computers to just kind of go through to get the information that they needed to show that I did or did not email somebody or received information from somebody? Is that
Yes,
probably very unlikely, but is that possible?
well, it's possible, and it's happened in the past. The township has received subpoenas to inspect personal cell phones. That immediately comes to mind. Maybe emails, if they met certain conditions. And so, yes, that's possible. And in my mind, it's, if you're in this business long enough or a trustee long enough, it's likely. That's why I always try to emphasize and push the idea of, being conscious of what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're saying it, when it comes to township business on personal devices. This will also, and I know it's kind of hard to do because, we all end up with a tablet, a cell phone or two, and a laptop, and what do I have with me at a particular day? But by having these devices and using them, I think you're you're better managing the risk of what you're talking about, Trustee Theron.
And that's something that I would, not that, if it had to happen, it has to happen, but I would prefer not them to take my personal computer. And I'm sure it would be for a short period of time because I'm not the only one that uses it. I have, children that use it. My wife likes to use it. I use it for other things. And so I guess after talking with Mark and just thinking about that aspect, I'm actually in favor of having a device from the township that only deals with the township via communication. I don't mind using my personal tablet to maybe pull up the agenda so I can follow along to limit the paper. But any research I do, anything I look up, any communication I have, email or otherwise, give or receive, is all on one, so that if something like that does happen, it doesn't necessarily invade my personal life. So that's something to think about. So I don't believe I am in favor of a device. So, thank you.
So I'm going to follow up on that, if I may. In the past, I did receive court notices for personal devices, and that included then my servers at my workplace. And I've got about 17 different servers at my workplace, and I'm a small company. But they felt that the electronic communication that I was doing while I'm at work on the township's behalf traveled through my servers, and therefore they were worth potentially exploring. And that ended up, I wasn't going to hand those over. I was going to fight for that, but I ended up not having to. But the threat was there, and then it passed. But it could have happened to me. And I know we've had to submit text messages chains, et cetera, in the past. And that could include handing over a phone, including your personal phone. So that this would alleviate a lot of that. Yes, Trustee Hauk.
Yes, this all happened when we had to go to Zoom meetings. I mean, before you got your packet, you were live. So I didn't worry about it as much. But when we came to Zoom meetings, we had tablets given to us from the township that, might have been better off thrown in the dumpster. I know that pretty much every one of us that got one of those don't use them because we were all losing communication. Ever since this board's been on here, we haven't had problems. But our previous board, you'd have 2 or 3 people a night having problems with their devices. Now we're pretty much all using our own personal devices. And I mean, I have business stuff on this laptop I'm using, and nobody's taking this thing from me. I mean, I'll sue. I mean, I can't afford to be without this, you know?
I agree. Looking
It's quite
for,
common these days for elected officials in any city or township or county of any size to have corporate provided devices, at least made available.
Mark, do you feel that the equipment that you've asked is it CMS
Hmm.
to bid out, do they feel that it's worthy of the Zoom meeting and to do the things that at least now that we need to do and potentially future, I guess?
I fundamentally asked them to spec out the same type of device that we're providing employees as we change out if they have a desktop computer. You know, we're moving to these surfaces, so it allows us a little more flexibility and so they're sized to do everything that you'll ever want to do on it.
Well, I know Lisa needs something. I mean, for everything she's going through, she not only needs a new computer, she needs a raise.
Yes.
different discussion.
The lack of this policy has not prevented Clerk Cody from getting anything she may need or may have needed.
For the questions, comments, we do have a motion on the floor.
Call the
See, I'm sorry.
Oh, I said call the vote.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to approve. Forgive me.
Charter Township of Union electronic device computer tablet use policy for elected officials.
Thank you. That's the
Yep.
motion on the floor. Seeing no other comments or questions, Clerk Cody, would you do a roll call, please?
Trustee Thering,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Bills,
Yes.
Trustee Haupt,
Yes,
Supervisor Milky,
Yes.
Treasurer Rice,
Yes.
Clerk Cody, yes. All yeses.
Thank you. Let's see, item G on our agenda, which is part of our policy governance review of our code of conduct. Mark, do you want to introduce this one? Keep me out of it.
I will briefly, thank you. This is a policy out of the section of policy governance where the board has created policies that are applicable to the board itself. And so monthly you do, not only do you review policies that are applicable to administration, but you also review compliance with policies that you're to be following as a board. And this is one of them. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It is in your packet. At the highest level policy statement states that the board commits itself and its members to ethical, businesslike, and lawful conduct, including proper use of authority and appropriate decorum when acting as board members. This paperwork is on page 92 of your packet, and the full policy begins on page 94 of your packet. And then there's a little evaluation form on the last page of your packet if it proves beneficial to use.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll just kind of go through the items and remember, I mean, the purpose of what we're doing here, right, is to grade ourselves and if we don't like something in the policy, we can look at changing it. But I guess I'll make the ask of, do we believe this board's in strict compliance with this policy as stated?
Yes.
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 I do too. If you've indicated the board's not in strict compliance with the policy as stated, please indicate what you noticed that gives evidence that the board is not in compliance. Well, I didn't hear anybody say we weren't. Okay. How do you think the board could improve the process to be in full compliance?
Looks good to me.
I'll add one comment. And this may not be natural, at least it wasn't for me when I first became a board member, but when you're in public, obviously one thing you can always say is what this board has said as a body, right? Any policies that we agree to, whether or not you agreed with it or only half the board did, if that policy passed, that is public and you have every right to state that. And it's helpful to, I hate to say fall in line, but that's what it is. And if you're going to talk outside of those boundaries ever, and I'm very careful in doing this, I always say, I don't represent the board. This is my personal view. This is the township view. I try to avoid that conflict when I can, but there are times when I'll bring it up that way, but I always try to put that disclaimer out there that I am not representing the board on this comment, right? This is just me as a resident. And just a reminder that that's a public stance in those situations where you need to be talking policy. Otherwise, this is an area I think that we do pretty well in by and large. No other comments on improvement? What does the board need to learn or discuss in order to live by its policies more completely? I guess maybe I jumped the gun and answered
Where you answered.
Yeah.
on the previous one. I think the other thing that's really important here, at least it is to me, and maybe it's just from past experience, and others may have different experiences, but with regards to legal proceedings, that if we're in a lawsuit, that we just kind of try to stay out of it, right? Because we don't want to be talking in public on any lawsuit that might end up getting the township in trouble.
No comment.
Exactly. Anything else on that before we move on? Seeing none, that takes us to extended public comment. Extended public comment is restricted to 5 minutes regarding any issue. I'm not seeing anybody in the crowd, so I'll keep it short. If you do decide to raise your hand and take the floor, make sure you list your name and address for the record. With that, we'll open up extended public comment at 8:19 p.m. We'll hang on 5 minutes in case somebody comes in the door. Seeing no one, we'll close extended public comment at 8:19 p.m. With that, I'll hand the floor to our manager for his comments.
Thank you. And I just have a couple. We are looking, we have advertisements out for summer help. And so if any of you know of any older high school, early college type of age folks that might be looking for summer work, it'd be, I'll call it field work in the parks and, grounds maintenance, other minor support. They're not down in the hole digging or anything. But if you know of anybody that's interested, please have them contact the township. We're offering $12 an hour for this summer help. I believe I'm accurate on that. Those just try to help get the word out that we're looking for some summer help.
Hey, Mark, quick on that. there's a lot of guys retiring at Delafield. Seems like, over the next 2 or 3 months, and a lot of them are like my age, I mean, they still got a couple good years left in them. So, maybe they can go out and mow lawns and stuff like that. They just want to work part-time.
Bill, don't set yourself short, man.
I don't know, Bill.
Not bad, but
You're pretty old.
I mean, maybe we could throw a thing up in their lunchroom or something. Whatever.
Well, all kidding aside, it's difficult to find help right now.
Yeah.
How many hours?
Yeah, hours.
How many hours can they get?
I don't know, it's part-time summer work. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kim.
I'm sorry. Do
No,
you want
go
me to
ahead,
answer that since most of them work in my
Please.
department?
please.
So in the parks, they normally work 40 hours unless they have to work on the weekends, and we're flexible on that as well. And the same in utilities, we're pretty flexible because we do get a lot of younger people, but we've also had retirees that have worked out wonderful for us that just want to work maybe a half a day, and maybe we hire 2 guys that want to work a half a day or just want to work 3 days a week. So we are flexible on that, but as a rule, they get 40 hours a week during the summer. The job ends depending on what the weather is like. Usually our college age and high schoolers are done at the end of August. And if we have some that are a little older, then they can work a little longer, but we don't usually have anybody at all past October because the parks are closed and the lawn care is starting to end. So that's kind of how we handle that.
Thank you.
So
Thank
I like your comment, Bill, a lot. I was having a discussion with the city this past week, and one thing that came out of the discussion was how hard it is to find parks people this year. We have a lot less college students in residence here now. And as Mark said, it's hard to get. You may find that you may have to raise those prices to attract them. I don't know. But
We've raised them compared to last year.
yeah, it's going to be tough.
My nephew gets $15 an hour from his parents.
What?
Yep.
Where do I apply?
Where does he, if he wanted the job, where would he apply? Online?
So, yes, the application, the job description and application is online, and he can just download that, and then there's an email address on there. He can email it in.
Okay.
So yes, if you know somebody, please direct them to our website, have them fill out the information, and we'd be happy to get the applications.
Are you looking 18 years and older?
Not necessarily. They need to have a driver's license. They have to be at least 16. If you get somebody who is 16, 17, we have to be a little careful because they are using, larger lawnmowers, weed whips, things like that. We don't usually like them to, be running the trucks or trying to back up trailers or anything like that. So we will take some potentially younger candidates, but we do like to have them at least 17, 18,
Okay.
just because of some of the work that they're performing.
And we train them as well to,
Right.
ride that and operate those lawnmowers.
Great experience for a young person. Great
Mhm.
experience.
Older person.
I just let you guys know, my nephew Nicholas Brown and my son Dan Brown work for Kim. They were both 16. Nick worked there a couple years for you, I believe, right, Kim?
Yes,
3 years,
unfortunately, he's
and
not coming back this year.
unfortunately, he's not. Neither is my son. But they really enjoyed it. If anybody is thinking of bringing a nephew, cousin, something like that, 16 years old, my son really enjoyed working for Union Township, and so did Nick. They got trained well, very safe, really enjoyed it. If he didn't have his dream job up in the marina, he'd be applying. Plus, he doesn't want to live around me ever again, so that's another reason he's not in Union Township. But I just wanted to throw that plug out there that both of those boys really enjoyed working for Kim and Mark.
Very good. Mark,
So-
sorry for the diversion. Thank you.
thank you for helping get that word out. Also, we're trying to, I'll say eyeball the date range of April 19th through April 30th to have our tour and also our ends meeting. What I'm envisioning right now is that we'd meet over at Jameson and then get on a bus, go on a tour of all the facilities, come back to Jameson after a couple hours of that, and then have an hour or two discussing the ends that are currently in your governance policy. Now you might want to update those, adjust them, leave them alone, whatnot. We'd like to do that at Jameson because we'll be done with the interior improvements over there. It's a little fuzzy right now, just, still with COVID and all, but as I get a sense that more and more of us are getting vaccinated and if the rules allow from the state, then we would like to kind of do it this way. So there'll be more to come on that, but I think your takeaway is to start looking at the ends that you currently have in your policy and just beginning to think about those. So, and then the last thing is, I just want to reiterate Director Nanny's comment earlier that we haven't had a ZBA meeting with any cases in over a year. And that's quite a change from when I first got here. We had agenda items on monthly. In fact, I think we used to meet quarterly and we changed it to monthly because we had, and the volume suggested there was a problem somewhere in the system. But going a year without one means that we've resolved much of that underlying problem that was probably sourced a lot in the code itself, so it has been updated. And then also, since we were able to bring in additional resources that you all approved, we have more ability and resource to manage the land use process that often could result in requests for variances. So it's kind of a big deal. I didn't want to just gloss over it. So thank you. We're back to the chair.
Big deal. All right, we'll do final board member comments. I started at the bottom last time, so we'll go to Trustee Hauk.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, you want me? I can come back to you.
I have a couple things. Okay, I sent everybody an email. Brian said that we've got some money coming, some stimulus money. So I'd like to look at a park in the future here. I know everybody's looked at that. A park out at our land, out at the corner of Deerfield and Mission Road. Mark had a suggestion that it'd be a great place for a trailhead for the Rails to Trails. So I think that once we find out when we're getting this money and if we can spend it on this, I think it'd be good if we checked into that. I still want to know what is up with the building official. I've requested information on solar panels at the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant. I hope we can get something in on that. And then I was gonna, earlier, when we were talking about the pump station out at the end of McDonald Drive, in the past, there's a guy that, his name is Matt Begris. Matt owns land on Mission Creek. He lives at the end of O'Connor subdivision, but he has land on the east side of the creek and on the west side of the creek. And I had talked to him one day and he said that, he might be interested in building a bridge across there. Well, if we're doing work on that pump station out there, if we're, going to have equipment out there, maybe it'd be a good time to tie it all together. And maybe we could use some of this stimulus money for that too, to put a bridge across and connect those neighborhoods. I know Matt would probably have to give access of his property to get off, once it's on the east side, to get up to the street, somebody's gonna have to give access across their property. But on the west side, you could butt it right up to the township property that goes right onto McDonald Drive. So, I don't know, just thoughts. I have a lot of crazy thoughts. So anyways, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Treasurer Rice.
The only thing I have is just, repeat, if we can find some people to fill our boards. I know it's difficult right now, but just put feelers out there. That's it. Yeah.
Trustee Therian?
Yes. Mark, is there anything that that would be appropriate to share in regards to the change in our assessing department?
Just that we've received a notice of contract termination. I provided that to you electronically. It's no secret. I did meet with the assessor, and it was agreeable to have some additional discussions to see if there's a work arrangement where we could continue to retain those services. And at least that resulted in him agreeing to stay with us through June. I haven't followed up and had the second round of discussions, but it has put me on alert that we're likely to have to, if we're not able to reach agreement, then we're going to be posting and advertising that position again like we did 9 months ago, and try to fill it. I don't know if you're, so that's kind of where it is. And if you have a more specific question, I'm happy to try to answer it, but I'm not sure if you do.
Did he really, was it just more than what they expected, or was there some sort of, I don't know. I guess that's what I was, more than what they expected.
Yeah, he's losing 2 employees. And so, from his perspective, and our arrangement right now requires 4-day-a-week physical presence. He's a small business. He's lost 2 employees. He's got to fill those. He's going to have as much problem filling those positions as we have filling anything, and probably more if he's looking for people that are experienced in assessing, say, an existing level 1 or 2. So he sees that on the horizon, coupled with our current contract that requires 4-day-a-week, which I'm willing to discuss with him further if that's a real hang up. And then, so there's a staffing issue, and then I think he's still kind of getting used to, you mentioned the number of MTTs that we have. I think that is more temporary in nature. I don't think that's necessarily structural. So maybe that's a mountain we can get past, then maybe that'll satisfy him a little bit. And then he mentioned just some of the expectations I have and we have as an organization. I'm not sure he was fully, even though he agreed to do what I think is in the agreement, it is all time consuming. For instance, he has to submit a monthly report to the finance director, and some of those types of things he may not have been quite used to. I've been satisfied with the service. of the firm and our internal staff has as well. I was disappointed to receive the notice. And so particularly after just 9 months, so I'm trying to see if there's a way that between the two of us, we can continue the relationship. It's too early for me to put a probability on the likelihood of that.
Thanks, Mark.
Sure.
That was it.
Just to follow up, I was gonna ask this question anyways, but I'll keep it in context. If that doesn't work out, I like the idea that you had regarding potentially sharing assessing services with the city. I know a lot of municipalities are moving to that because of the limited number of assessors in Michigan. So if that ends up being where we have to go, then I'm certainly supportive about that idea as well. But with that, Treasurer Rice.
You already did 9.
Oh,
What about me?
I mean, if you want me to talk
yeah,
again.
no, you're right. I got out of
I'm
order
good.
here. All right, Trustee Brown. A long week already.
I'm all set tonight. Thank you.
All right, Clerk Cody.
I had a question for Mark. Just a quick question. Did you start the interviews for the front desk receptionist yet?
I have not.
Okay.
Is that something that's gonna be started soon? Did you, couple months or so, or a month?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure what your definition of soon is, but yeah, it's hot on the plate. I need to get it filled. We received 40 applications.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, yeah,
It
just trying to weed them out, huh?
just to get that amount of paperwork organized, but I've gone through the stack once. I got them divided into red, which means no, yellow, which means maybe, and green means I'm likely to interview them. I want to go through that again. I think I've said internally that there was an outside chance of getting it filled by the end of April. That's looking more and more unlikely, although I'm not discounting the possibility of it. But we're doing well up front with the help of Amy and Kim, so I'm comfortable with our status from a perspective of existing customer service and all that.
Is
Yep,
the
Amy
green
and I
stack
talk
higher
daily.
than the red stack?
There's about
Is the green stack higher than the red stack?
no.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Are you all set, Clerk Cody?
Yeah, thanks.
Trustee Bills?
Yeah, I would like to say thank you, Bill, and I am firmly behind your idea of creating a trailhead for the Mid-Michigan Community Pathways Trail to Shepherd. In addition, I was in the spring weather out hiking in Mission Peak Park, and there's no signage on the path. Is there a reason for that?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that.
I don't know if I'm getting hurt. There's no signage on the paths at Mission Creek up by Hannah's Bark Park there. There's a bunch of pathways in there. Why aren't there any signs? Don't we have this park? Isn't that us?
No.
Mission Creek
No.
Park is a city park.
Oh, it's city? I'm sorry.
Mhm.
And
We have helped improve that park. We contributed to the dog park component, and we've contributed funds to help with the new restroom warming station. But in terms of the rest of it, I couldn't answer that.
so then, and also I would just like to say that with regard to the stimulus money we're going to get, I think we should use some of it to finish our infrastructure projects we have pending. That's my opinion.
As
Thank
soon as
you.
I have more information on that, I will be providing it to you. I've not received anything since my last communication to you.
Thanks, Mark.
Regarding the stimulus, obviously will come with restrictions, and
Mhm.
one possible way to deal with some things to get stuff that we want done accomplished is to do some reappropriation.
Yeah,
So in other words, we may have some certain monies earmarked currently for roads, which we could put stimulus money towards. And then that money could be used for some of the other improvements within the township. Because we certainly want to take advantage of that and make sure that our community gets full use and big bang for our buck, right? And with that, thank you, Bill and James, for taking that journey out there. I'm real supportive of that trailhead idea as well. It's an awesome idea. So I appreciate your time out there. Looking at my notes here. Regarding the solar, again, I've said I'm real supportive of this. I might want to take, rather than just looking at a couple of facilities, look at a broader policy for the township as a whole. Because we might be able to take advantage of that here at Township Hall, or maybe is it well number 1 that's south of town? I don't know if that's the number of it, but I'm just saying we might be able to take more advantage than just the 2 that you've identified, Bill. So you're full of good ideas lately. I like it. I might mean that as a compliment, Bill.
better idea. I'm gonna tell my wife I'm gonna retire and go work at the parks and mow lawn. Less
Oh, if they
stress.
hire you, Bill.
Right. And my last comment on the dog park, just incidentally, since you brought that up, in Mission Creek. So dog park, as Mark mentioned, was a early joint project between the city, the township, and the Friends of the Dog Park nonprofit group. And it was really, I think that was in 2013. And that was like,
It was before I got on.
yeah, so it was 13 then. And that was like a baby step for building that relationship between the township and the city. And it was a small enough project, and we got to work on it together. So even though that park, Hannah's Bark Park, is city owned, it's in the township.
Mhm.
It's in the municipal boundary of the township. So no, again, another good reason for us to be supportive on that. So along those lines, the Friends of the Dog Park have reached out to me, and they wanted lights in that park since day one, but the funds didn't allow for it at that time. And so I've been having some discussions with them, and they have a good seed money set for that improvement of lights. It's already been engineered. They've got costs for it, but they need a little bit of help from the township and city. At least this is their ask, a little bit of help from the township and the city to put them over the hump to be able to afford those funds. And so as I get more details, I'll share those. I know I've talked to a couple of you about it already, but I thought it was a great opportunity to get that improvement. That area has needed lights for some time. And I'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Can I just say that I think we should be in all LED lights in all of our facilities. I don't know if we are, but we should be.
I do know I think we've moved all our streetlights to LED now, I think. No?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Yeah, I would agree with you though. Huge savings. And with that, I'm done. So we'll
Mark's
call.
raising his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Mark.
Since it's come up a couple times tonight, and Trustee Howe, has mentioned it again, and we have been in contact with Block Electric, Corey. He is working on something for us that is in, I guess, that ties in with the conversation that Trustee Howe had with Corey for $600 when he produces that report, which we would expect maybe by the end of April. I will certainly be sharing that with the board, and then more broadly, your whole discussion of alternative forms of energy, I think, is really a good one for your ends, because if it doesn't exist in there, the administration's not going to spend a lot of time on it. Whatever the alternative program may be. And then as it relates to the Bark Park, I am on the Hannah's Bark Park Advisory Board, as is a representative from the Friends of the Bark Park. To my knowledge, the advisory board has not received anything officially from the Friends of the Bark Park. I'm aware of the initiative, and the township have not received anything by the way of an ask either. I would imagine it might run up through that structure, not necessarily, but so thank you for letting me add that at the end here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And with that, we'll call for adjournment. All in
I'll
favor,
make the
raise your
motion
hand,
to
say
adjourn.
aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
I
sign.
made a motion. I made the motion if you needed it.
Okay, do we have support at least?
Support.
Okay.
All right,
Support.
motion by Rice, support by Brown. Thank you all. Have a
Happy
great
Easter,
night.
everyone.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great night. Great Easter, Bill. Right back at you.
Thank you.